that was not supposed to happen. Because it's heavy on one side. Let me pull up the YouTube real quick. Let me pull up the YouTube real quick, and then I'll do what I'm supposed to do. Skip, dismiss. Okay. These earrings have been sitting. Let me take my headphones out because I feel like I'm talking really loud. Hold on. Okay. You were quick to tune in. You were. You sure were. How's everybody doing tonight? Too bad we can't play jams over here. Juice finally went to sleep. Amen. Really nice earrings, thank you. I was doing good till I ran out of wings. Oh, come on. You had wings? I made spaghetti. I wanted to eat goulash, but we didn't have any tomato sauce, so we settled for spaghetti. And Juice's favorite, so that was his original request. He said, make spaghetti. Me and my dad, I was like, I want to make goulash. My dad's all, yeah, make goulash. Because I think my dad's tired of spaghetti. We eat it at least once a week, I swear. Juice was all happy, ate a big old plate. Oh my god, so windy. He just jammed out, just thinking about Usher now. I'm making skitty tomorrow. I don't know what I'm gonna make tomorrow. I need to take out that chicken. We haven't ate chicken in a while. I need to take out those chicken thighs. Those chicken thighs, like Curtis's thighs. Okay. How much do we have here? Ah, I lost count. See, this is why I need a brighter light. Nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, we got one right there. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. What did I say? 23? We'll leave it like that for now. That might be just the amount we need. I love it how it's not the exact numbers, because bead size makes a difference. Like these beads are all nice and symmetrical. These ones are all small and thin. They didn't tell me that when I was learning. Hello, 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 Nighthawks. I was about to go to sleep, then I got. Did you get your mail? Oh, 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 oh my God. I have a couple of earrings. I need to look through. I gotta package orders tomorrow. I need to update my inventory. Yeah, act like I have a lot for earrings. I don't really have a lot. Hello, everybody. Tell scary stories. You call in and tell us one. I'll put the number right here. If you guys call and tell some, then I'll tell some. Okay, let's see. I might need like 2 or 3 more beads. Goat head Curtis, sore loser. Is Curtis mad? Oh, 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 oh my God. Yeah, see, we're way down here still. So, well, I guess this isn't the straightest needle. If you guys hear like some white noise in the background, I have my air purifier right here. It's really been working. My air purifier. I found it and paid $7 for it. Brand new. I Googled it. Apparently it's a good brand. And it was way, 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 way more than that. So I think people weren't seeing results. I think they were impatient. I was at first. But I think that it is definitely working. I've been checking every couple of days and it's getting pretty dusty, the filter. Good evening. Good evening, all you cool cats and dogs. Maybe just one. Oh my gosh. I wish we could listen to music on here. Do you guys want to listen to scary stories? Let's see what all the comments are. I'm over here looking down. What up, FTW, Curtis? Precious Sunshine. Hey, I heard it first on your live that my Niners lost. Then you ended the live. Because I was going to go eat. Nobody was on. You were the only one on, Curtis. 5'5" with thick thighs, chicken thighs. Usher did great. I really think he did do great. A lot of people were hating. I think it was like the younger generation. You know how they are all used to that auto tune and whatnot? You know how they be all used to the lip singing? I really think he did a good job. He is definitely way fit than other people that were on there recently, in the last few years. So I really thought he did good. And it was different too. It wasn't I don't think it was boring. I think it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. But man, he show fit still. He show can still take off that shirt. Rita, what time is it over there in Canada? Hi, Darla. No mail yet. Maybe this coming week. Let me look at it right now while I have you on. Excuse me. Rita, yep, still says in transit. It said arrived at facility on February 9th. When was that? 2 days ago? When did we do this on the first thing? And I'm trying to think which one not yet, Rita, not yet. Good evening, Martha. I don't know about Alicia Keys though. She sucked. Kitty, what happened this weekend? What do you mean? I went to Gila River, and Gila River does not wear makeup. So I was thinking about going. I wanted to go sell at their fair, but I don't know now. We did not do good over there. But, that's what it's all about, trying to see what fits and what doesn't. And yeah, we did not do good in Gila River. But shout out to whoever watches my channel. They came by. I don't know who it was. They didn't say their name. I didn't even know they knew who I was until they were like, "Kitty, do you take Zelle?" I was like, "Oh, you know me?" She, why don't you just say that first? Why didn't you just start with that first? It was cold. Yeah. Whew, I was almost about to go and sell at their fair, but I don't know now. I don't think it would be a smart move. These are for sale, yes. I don't know how much yet. I'm still working on them. I can't picture them right now in my head. They're gonna be hanging ones though, for sure. Were you live earlier? Was busy. I was live on TikTok. I almost came live on YouTube, but then I got busy with something. I can't remember what. So, I went live on TikTok for a little bit, but it was dead over there. Everybody was watching the game. Nobody really watches me over there. So, I mean, it's cool though, like I still vibe out by myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. Hopefully this was the right amount. 5. For me, it was his outfit. Who the heck picked it out for him? I'm mad at his outfit, huh? It was a performer's outfit. Quit hating, Curtis. Quit hating on Usher. It was sparkly. That's how Michael Jackson wore sparkly ass outfits. No one said nothing about that. It was cool when they had skates on. Yeah, that was different. I mean, I know he does that in his performance, but that was cool that he did that there. I think he moves pretty well for his age. I didn't think he did, but he definitely does. I would go see him, and if he came to Arizona, I would definitely go see him. I'm sure that you can listen to music. It has to be sped up version. What? That's not fun though. What is the fun in that? 1:27 a.m. Dang, that's crazy. You're ahead of us. Why? Okay, this might sound dumb, and I feel a little dumb for even bringing this up. Um, we're not that great at geography over here. But last night someone was on my live from Alaska and they were behind, whereas you're in Canada and you're forward. How does that work? Is it the time zone that you're in, or? Oh, okay, I don't have any other social media. Yeah, you probably should get TikTok. I love them. I want them unavailable. You gotta pay for them. Gotta pay for them. I don't hold. Whoever buys them buys them. The game was rigged. All the games are rigged. Everything's rigged. Hope to see you when finished. Good job. Thank you, Precious. All the professional sports are rigged. In my personal opinion, I think everybody knew Taylor Swift's boyfriend was going to win. She is a high level witch. I was checking out all the symbolism too. It was pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But that's a whole another topic for a whole another day. Oh, 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 oh. Even Usher. He ain't. He is not innocent. Oh, oh. I didn't have tea all day. Oh, speaking of which, I gotta redo my meds because I didn't even take my meds today. My ass was assed out. Where is my wipes? This thing got a little dusty. Oh, 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 oh my God. That's why we lost, because you didn't have your tea today. Gee, I didn't even watch the game. I woke up and I was like, oh shit. And I was like, did Usher perform? It was all third quarter. This thing sits in the corner. Maybe that's where I need to put my air purifier at. And it gets dusty quick. Not me having a pill case at the age of 35. They're all vitamins. If I don't take them, I will forget. I put it right there, right where I can see it too. I've been using this for years. It's so worn out. I'm using my shirt now to dry it because I don't have no rag. If you think that's unsanitary, mind your business. You ain't the ones taking them. Makes me wonder if these vitamins really work too. Do they really digest in your system? I heard pill forms don't. So I don't know about that. I don't really know. Oh, 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 oh my God. Let's really get in here and look at that. All the dust. See that? Oh, 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 oh my God. I guess I should get a new one, huh? But my ass is too cheap. I just keep reusing it. I use it so much that the letters came off and I have to redo them. Dang, I swear I go through these like crazy. Oh, 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 oh my God. Oh, oh. my allergy medicine. Okay, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 4, 5, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 5, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6. Okay, we good, we good. Gotta get my pills at almost midnight. Okay, back to this. Actually, let me go grab my other tea. I ran out. Hold on. Oh, 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 oh my God. Okay. I gotta have my tea. Okay. Oh, 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 oh my God. 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 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 oh my God. Do you guys want to listen to scary stories or what? Let's listen to some Haitian scary stories.
Power on. Bluetooth pairing. Bluetooth connected.
Um, creepy hitchhiker stories. You know what I've been coming across lately is Appalachian. I wonder if there's anything on it. Um Appalachian, the mountains. I know there's a thing about witches. Appalachian, which one has more views? Witches in Appalachia. So
No hill, holler, ridges, like can't see. Way beyond fog, steep in old ways. When folks was at church every Sunday.
shit, his voice sounds like
We'll
cheap.
be at the prayer meeting on Wednesday.
I'll go on with that. Um, let's listen to this one. Witch stories.
Hey, welcome back to Unexplained Encounters. I'm your host, Darkness.
Let's see. I don't want to get copyrighted.
Stories about witches that I've read over the years in one big ol' oddly handsome compilation. I mean, why is it so handsome? So again, of Donner. In the 1980s, when I was around 7 or 8 years old. In the 1980s, when I was around 7 or 8 years old, my dad's dad died. He'd lost a long-fought battle against
So your
cancer.
grandpa, just say
I
your
hate to say
grandpa.
it like this, but I remember my family of Donner Farm. from harsh truth. Just that way. Enjoy and be sure to send me your smells. In the 1980s, when I was around 7 or 8 years old, my dad's dad died. He'd lost a long-fought battle against cancer. I hate to say it like this, but I remember my family feeling relieved. The stress and pain my grandfather suffered was finally over. Now, my grandfather had been a man who saved his money, but never came around to spending it. And as my grandmother had long since passed, my father received everything from his father's will. My family received over $60,000 in the will, and after some time planning and discussing with my mother, my dad decided to put it towards his dream home. He wanted to return to the country lifestyle he grew up in. He thought the fields and woods would be a better place to raise my older brother and I. Soon my parents purchased a beautiful ranch-style home with 80 acres of land, much
Dang.
of which still had to be financed, but the inheritance did cover most of it. I remember when I first walked through the doorway of my childhood home. It smelled of well-kept wood, the scent of freshly cut grass wafting in from the open front door. My mother left it up to my brother and I to decide between ourselves which rooms were ours. This would be my first time having a room to myself. I was so excited that I didn't care much which room my brother picked. I wish I would have cared, though. I ended up with the room furthest from my parents' room. This room was sizable, with 2 windows overlooking the fields outside. It also had a big closet that I had no idea what to do with. A lot of space for a boy who kept his clothes in a dresser. It was on the very first day we were there when the strange occurrences began. Having told our parents which rooms we decided on, we started to unpack separately in our rooms. I was sitting in the back corner of the closet of my room, figuring out how to stack my collection of board games, the only things I could think of to place in there at the time. I'd left my closet door open, as well as my bedroom door, so that lights from the house and from outside would shine into the closet. The closet did have its own light source, one of those light bulbs with a pull string, but I had a lot of trouble reaching it, so I didn't want to bother with it. I recall having just set down my Monopoly box when the closet door slammed shut. Instantly, I shot up and turned around. Without any light from the outside, the closet was pitch black, save for the narrow crack under the door. Uneasy, I called out my brother's name, assuming he was joking with me. There was no reply. I ran toward the door, using the crack of light at the bottom as my guide. Then I scoured the dark for the doorknob. Relief filled me when I found it, until I tried to turn it. It wouldn't budge. It didn't make sense. The closet door didn't have a lock on the inside or outside of it. Why wouldn't it turn? A scared child, I could only assume my older brother was on the other side, holding the doorknob still. We liked to joke with each other as all brothers do, but he had never been one to prank me like this. He was as much scared of the dark as I was. Moments after realizing trying to open the door was futile, I turned back toward the center of the closet and reached my hand upward, looking for the string to the light, or rather, feeling for it. It was difficult for me to reach, but I knew if I could just feel the tip, I could jump up and yank it down, and the darkness would disappear. The longer I stepped blindly through the dark, the faster my heart pounded. Being engulfed in darkness was a nightmare come true. Little did I know things would get worse. I did finally feel the small caplet at the end of the string. Before I could jump up and attempt to yank the cord down, I felt something that took my breath away. An icy cold hand from behind me. It placed itself on my neck and slowly ran up my cheek. I jumped and screamed so loud, some of the blood vessels in my face busted. I practically tackled the wall next to me to get around the thing that had touched me, because it had come from the direction of the door. Quickly, I scuttled toward the door and began to pound against it, screaming for anyone that might hear me. Moments later, my dad pulled the door open from the other side. I nearly fell on my face. I crawled out and immediately looked back into the closet. The darkness now cowered away from the light that flowed back through the open door. The closet, except for my board game stack in the back, was empty. My dad picked me up and embraced me. He looked at my face. Buddy, did you lock yourself in there? Jeez, look at your face.
That
He wiped
voice.
tears away from my red cheeks. As he carried me to his and my mom's room to comfort me, I couldn't bring myself to tell him that the door didn't have a lock. But I did manage to tell both of them what happened in there. But they blamed it on my intense fear of the dark. Specifically, my mom said being that scared can make you see or feel things that aren't there.
Oh, go
She
on.
compared it to seeing figures or faces in the dark, when what you're actually looking at is a coat rack or a chair.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Never mind.
As
Never
much
mind.
as I loved my parents, I did not agree with a word of what they said. The hand I'd felt so long ago there was vividly real, and I remember it clearly even now. That hand was not my own, nor was it my imagination.
Sorry.
Later on, when Dad went to my closet one night to grab one of my board games, I watched him do a double take when he opened the door. It was the first time he'd actually taken a look at it. My dad looked the doorknob over on both sides and raised an eyebrow. Hey, buddy, he said as he checked out the closet door. If you go in here, make sure you don't close the door or you might get stuck in there again. There's no lock, so it's probably just warped or something. I nodded and did my best to believe him. Over the next few months, small but weird and creepy things would happen, particularly in that part of the house towards my room. Dirty clothes I'd lay in the bedroom floor would often wind up inside the closet floor the next morning. When I began closing the closet door every night out of fear of the darned thing, it would always be open in the morning. One day when I was out playing after having cleaned my room, my mom called me back inside, absolutely furious. When I went back inside to my room where my mom was, she was fuming because of how trashed my room had become. She thought I hadn't cleaned it, but the state it was suddenly in was worse than I'd ever seen it before. Every drawer in my dresser had been pulled out and dumped out. My blanket and sheet from my bed had been pulled off and tossed over the closet door, which was now open. And inside the closet were hundreds of board game pieces, as someone had dumped each of the boxes out onto the floor. I was flabbergasted, but no matter what I said to my mom, she wasn't having it. She demanded I clean my room properly before I was allowed to come out of the room. Obviously, I was upset, but I did as she said. I cleaned as fast as I could, folded all my clothes again, remade my bed, then stood at the opening to my closet. I couldn't bring myself to walk in there alone, especially after something or someone had just ruined my room. And I know it wasn't me or my brother, because we'd been outside. And why would my parents mess up my room? Deep down, I knew it was the thing in the closet. I stayed in that room 2 hours longer than I had to, unwilling to enter that closet to pick up the board game pieces. But when my stomach began to growl, and the smell of homemade fried chicken filled the air, I forced myself up and into the closet. It took me a few tries, but I managed to jump up and catch the string to the light bulb. So at least I'd have some light if I did get stuck in there again. Quickly, I started to pick up the pieces on the floor. It was a pain matching them up with the right boxes, as about a dozen different games had been mixed up. Every few seconds, I glanced at the closet door, making sure it stayed open. I thought nothing would happen if that door was open. I thought nothing could happen if the light was on. I was wrong. I picked up the final piece eventually, a small white ball that I'm pretty sure belonged in the Hungry Hungry Hippos box. I threw it in, closed up the box, and turned around. I stopped. A woman stood in the doorway. Her feminine shape made me first think it was my mother. but she was taller than my mother. Her hair was a mess and went down to her ribs. She stood facing away from me in a stained but light blue dress. She appeared to be looking out the windows of my bedroom. My voice failed me. I wanted to speak to her, but I had no idea what to say. I wanted to think it was some long-lost relative coming for a visit that I'd never met before, and I hadn't known was coming. Denial is a powerful thing. The woman breathed in and out so slowly that I didn't hear her first breath until long after I studied her. Her breath was extremely slow and troubled, as if she'd been a smoker for multiple lifetimes.
Ew.
Then she lifted a bony finger and pointed towards one of the windows. I swear I heard her speak then. I think she said, "Such a nice day."
Ew.
Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, my vision was obstructed. I flinched away, first thinking that I'd suddenly gone blind, but as my hands felt up towards my face, I found greasy, messy hair covering my small form. Then that slow, struggling breathing came from behind me. This woman was no longer in the doorway. She stood right
Ew.
behind me, with her hair draped over me. I screamed then, and I ran forward, where I last saw the open closet door. And Christ, this sounds crazy, but the few feet I ran to escape that closet, each inch of the way I floundered through that hair. Her breathing stayed in the same spot in the closet, but the hair seemed infinite, as if it no longer came from her head, and instead hung from the ceiling. Only when I burst out of the closet did the hair finally come to an end. I turned to shut the door and found once again the closet empty. These are a couple of my most terrifying experiences with what I would eventually refer to as the Witch of Donner Farm. Donner was the name of one of the previous owners of the land. I wish I could say I figured out who she was, that we moved, that it all stopped. But we didn't move, and it never did stop. It would happen randomly, and things might calm down for months at a time, but she was always there, seemingly preferring my side of the house. The experiences only stopped after I moved out at the age of 20. If you want to hear more of these experiences, let me know. I'm sure most of you won't believe me. I wish I could sleep a bit better.
Ew.
The Witches in the Texas Woods. From Skip McGriff, 3. I live in the downtown area of a major Texas city. To get away from the city and enjoy the outdoors and some alone time, I would make the hour-and-a-half drive almost every weekend to a small cabin that my folks have in the woods. I've been hanging out at that cabin in those woods almost my entire life, so I felt pretty comfortable there. The area doesn't have many people living there, and it's relatively safe. So one weekend, I took some of my friends out there to fish and spend some time away from the city. While fishing on the bank of the river that runs near my folks' cabin, we pulled up some chairs, started a fire, drank a few beers, and watched the sun go down behind the trees. That's the good stuff right there. After sitting around for a few hours, I suggested we go hunting the next morning for breakfast. The guys weren't big fans of the idea of waking up early to crawl around in the woods looking for something to eat. They would have rather stayed up all night drinking and fishing, and wake up late the next day. "Let's just go hunting now," said one of them. Everyone else agreed and started getting rowdy. I stayed put in my chair and replied, "Oh, no, it's too late. It's too dark. We wouldn't be able to see a thing out there, man. Plus, those dang witches."
Ew.
Everyone knew I made a good point, but then one of them said, "Whoa, wait, what do you mean witches?" What are witches anyway? Like, really? I laughed a bit because they all seemed so intrigued, and all of a sudden so focused. So I began telling the story of the last time I went camping and hunting in the woods around my parents' cabin. It was just like any other camping hunting trip I'd gone out on. I'd packed a backpack with all the necessities, a 22 long rifle, and an M&P 45 that I always carry. I parked my truck at my folks and walked down the dirt road until it disappeared into the woods. I make a point to not overhunt in any one area, so I hiked in a direction I knew I'd never hunted in. After a few hours of hiking, I found a good clearing in the woods that would have allowed for a good amount of moonlight once it got dark. I don't use a tent when I camp alone, so setting up my camp was fairly easy. I got a fire going, and I hurried off to find some small game for dinner before it got too dark. After bagging a few squirrels and a rabbit, I started to head back to my campsite. The night had already started to settle in, so it was getting quite dark on me. I took a moment to light my lantern that was hanging off my backpack. I poured some lantern oil in it and lit it. A few hundred yards later, I heard movement in the distance. Obviously, while moving through the woods with a backpack with a rifle strapped to it, you make a lot of noise yourself. However, the noises that came from deeper in the trees have a distinct sound, like an echo or a reverberation. So when I heard movement coming from somewhere else other than myself, I froze, staying completely still and listening. There was nothing. My brain started reasoning as fast as it could, and concluded that a branch might have fallen, or a deer got spooked, and hightailed it out of the area. That was good enough for me. So I continued on through the dark in the direction I knew my campsite was. Compasses don't lie, and I'd learned how to use them and rely on them by this point in my life. I heard it again, though. Noises coming from my right, north of where I was. And this time I almost thought I heard a yell or something. Again I froze, thinking, coyotes. I'm not too worried about coyotes, so I continued. The way back was starting to feel really long, though. But hiking through the woods during the day is very different than hiking through the woods at night. You usually hike slower, watching your steps more carefully. So it's not unusual that a hike the same distance could take longer at night than during the day. Before I go on, I feel like I should say that I was recently married at the time, probably less than a year at that point. Like I wrote before, I traveled a lot throughout my life, and homesickness was not something I was familiar with until I met my wife. I'll call her Juliet here. We
Now,
met when we were
how
both
else to be
18,
Juliet?
and up until then, I had never missed my home or anyone really, whenever I was away. But once we started dating, I began to finally experience the feeling of being homesick whenever I was away for too long, and in some cases, not long at all. That Friday evening, I left for the woods. I got home from work and sat down with Juliet for dinner before leaving. It had only been a few hours since I last saw
Thank
Juliet,
you, Louise.
and yet I missed her so badly in those woods. So much so that I think I almost felt pain. Having
Not
said
too
that,
heartbroken.
I think it'll make what happened next a little more creepy. Anyway, I'd heard something.
Someone's gonna mimic
I
his
froze. I
wife.
stood
Watch.
still in the dark woods and turned to my
I
right.
already know it.
I was deeply confused because I knew what I just heard. It was Juliet calling me.
Mm-hmm. Told
Although
you.
it sounded like she was a bit far, there was no doubt it was Juliet. What's she doing out here? There must be some emergency. I gotta find her. She's probably been calling my phone, and it's not even on. Something bad must have happened, I thought, as my mind raced to rationalize and come up with a realistic conclusion. Chip! Chip! She yelled through the trees in the distance. My name isn't Chip, but it's what Juliet calls me, and only Juliet.
Ooh.
I basically jogged through the dark forest towards where I last heard her, stopping every now and then to listen for her again. Eventually, I had to stop because I had not heard Juliet yell for a while. I stood there quietly panicking for what must have been 5 minutes, but every second was torturous. I felt like I failed to find my wife, to help her. She came all the way out here to find me because she needed me, and I couldn't even find my way to her. And then I heard her again. Shep! Shep! Her voice quietly resonated through the tall trees, and she sounded like she was in pain. I began to walk as quietly as I could towards her, so I could hear her if she called out to me again, and she did. She sounded noticeably closer. I was relieved as I felt myself getting closer and closer to Juliet. Shep! Shep! This time I felt alarmed. I felt like I was about to be in danger, but I shook it off and continued toward my wife. Shep.
You.
Again, I heard her calling me, but she didn't sound quite right. It was as if she was in pain, but also like it wasn't her at all. Just like two different people can say the same things in the same pitch and rhythm, but they can never sound exactly like each other. Like there was someone else pretending to be Juliet and mimicking her voice. But I had heard her so clearly just a few moments ago. I figured she was choking up, trying not to cry, so I kept moving. Again and again I heard Juliet calling me as I walked closer and closer. Each time she called, though, her voice sounded less and less like her. By the time she sounded like she was only 10 or so yards away, I was on high alert. It sounded nothing like her by then. Whoever it was calling me, she wanted me to believe she was Juliet, and by then I knew for sure it wasn't her. I approached carefully with my handgun drawn. This person wasn't moving one bit, but I could tell where she was. I walked closer, inch by inch, holding my lantern up in front of me, trying to see who I was dealing with. Then, peeking from around a tree, I saw two eyes reflecting the flame from my lamp. I have to admit, at that moment, I was terrified. Juliet is shorter than I am, and I was eye to eye with whoever this was, and her eyes were too far apart to have been Juliet's. Hey, is everything all right? I asked, like an idiot. Jack, she said. I can give you anything you want.
You.
I knew right away what she really was. I knew her malicious intentions. Jesus help me. I said under my breath in a fearful whisper, gun still in my hand, safely aimed toward the ground with my finger off the trigger. As soon as those words left my mouth, she visibly flinched, as if she had smelled something disgusting. I could only tell by her silhouette and the reflections in her eyes, though. I stood still, realizing what I had just said, while she backed away from me, back into darkness. Up until this point during my story, my buddies sat staring at me, completely silent, listening to me speak. Dude, why didn't you just shoot her? You had a gun, right? Said the youngest guy. I told him it would have been useless to shoot the witch. It wouldn't have killed her, or even hurt her, probably. How? Why? He replied. I began to explain to them what witches really are. People who practice witchcraft and offer rituals to demons they conjure in return for something they want. My theory was that this witch in particular achieved immortality through the sacrifice of people and animals. I could tell they were thinking it over and trying to decide whether to believe me or not. And to those listening, I know y'all might think this is unbelievable. And if I hadn't seen it all before, I wouldn't believe it either. The truth is, my parents were and still are very prominent figures in the church I grew up in. Being elders of the church community, they both performed exorcisms throughout my childhood. And no, I don't mean the stereotypical Hollywood Catholic priest with a little white thing on his neck under a black jacket holding up a wooden cross. They belonged to a Hispanic Protestant denomination that, in fact, thoroughly disagree with and oppose Catholicism. Being too young to stay home alone most of the time, I was often taken with my folks with them on house calls to pull demons out of people.
What?
It was a horrible experience every time. In Latin American cultures, it's not uncommon for people and their kids to visit witch doctors or healers when feeling sick or when they want their lives to move in a better direction, and sometimes when they want harm to come upon someone who has wronged them. Participating in these rituals is like an open invitation for demons and leaves people vulnerable to demonic activity. So there was always someone in need of help in our community. I watched and listened to everything my parents did during exorcisms, and read every book my dad kept in his office about the subject. By the time I had this incident in the woods, I already knew what to do and what not to do very well. I resumed my story after explaining a bit more to my buddies. As I was saying, I stood in the dark forest with my lamp held up with my outstretched arm until I could no longer see or hear the witch backing away. My adrenaline took a while to fully dissipate. Then fear hit me hard. I tried walking back to my campsite steadily and quietly, but my nerves got the best of me, and I ended up almost sprinting through the dark. I was pretty confident I could find my way back, but either way, I checked my compass frequently. Yet after running and running in the correct direction, I never reached my campsite. I felt confused and doubted myself like never before. Maybe I really don't know anything about being in the woods, I wondered. How could I have gotten myself so lost? I turned around and walked until I saw a familiar pattern in the trees. Once I felt confident about where I was, I forced myself to walk back to where I ran into the witch. When I found the tree she was initially hiding behind, I stared at it for a good while, expecting her to peek around it again, but nothing, thankfully. I retraced my steps back to where I detoured off my path to follow Juliet's voice, and after hiking a bit longer, I found my campsite. I was exhausted, covered in sweat, scratched up, hungry, and humiliated by the woods. I considered packing everything up and starting on the long walk back to the cabin, but I had no energy. I ate and called it a night. I didn't sleep much, even though I felt entirely drained. The woods were very loud that night, even by a summer night's standard. The bugs and animals didn't stop me to take a breath for a second, and the owls were particularly aggressive as well. I could hear them screaming near and far all night. Every time I began to drift off into rest, I would get awakened to the owls' screams echoing in the forest. Or at least, that's what I assumed to be owls. I turned to look at the guys and asked them if they were still down to creep into the woods. They looked at each other and hesitantly said yes, nervously chuckling. Well, y'all go ahead. I'm not going in there right now, I said, laughing to myself. But it didn't do anything to you. You scared her away, one of them replied. Maybe, but only because I said Jesus, I said. Well, then just say it again if she comes back. He was noticeably irritated. It's not that simple, I replied. I think you really have to believe for that to work. And I can say I really did believe back then, but now I won't be calling on anyone to come help me. After I said that, I don't remember much about that night, other than all of us ending the night by watching Blood Diamond in the cabin. It's the only movie my folks have in there. I think it was already there when they bought the place. As for what I said about believing, I'm not 100% sure it's right. Most demons hate God and Jesus, and I'm not sure if they care if you believe in God or not. It's not that I don't believe in God anymore. However, the only reason I do believe is because I've seen the other side of things. That witch knew what I loved and what I missed, and that I would do anything for Juliet. I've seen and felt evil, but I've never felt God. The Magic Needle Treatment, called Susuk, from J. Iop. As a child, I often accompanied my father to his acupuncture sessions. Because my dad was receiving a specialized acupuncture treatment that required the use of gold-plated needles that were very expensive compared to the regular disposable needles, my dad had his used needles sanitized after every use and stored in a Tupperware container, then brought home to be kept until the next session. It was a regular sight for his container with the gold-plated needles to be placed on the kitchen counter, where my mom usually bakes. Even though I was a child, I knew not to mess with the needles, because it was dangerous, and I knew my father would get very angry if I lost his expensive tools for treatment. There was a time when my grandmother decided to stay for a month with my family. One of those days, she decided to go to the traditional Chinese medicine clinic, where my dad got his acupuncture treatment, to get a consultation and treatment for her weakening general health. As my grandmother and I waited for my father to get ready, I crawled onto the kitchen counter and took the container with the gold-plated needles in it, and I started shaking it like a tambourine out of boredom. My grandmother saw through the semi-transparent lid of the container and remarked at how fine those needles were. This is when she, being descended from a long line of powerful shamans in the superstitious, rural villages of Thailand,
Not
started telling me about
shamans.
susuk, or colloquially known as the magical needle treatment. According to her, very fine and small needles will be placed deep into the facial muscles and skull of a person who seeks beauty, fame, and fortune from a witch doctor. The needles are not inserted physically, but magically, as in the witch doctor has to perform a ritual to make spirits, typically evil ones, bound by black magic, to materialize these tiny needles deep within the face of the person, without puncturing the skin at all. Apparently, this susuk, or magical needle treatment, was very popular among aspiring artists and tycoon wannabes who want the easy and fast way to stardom and success.
Dang, this would have been a good.
Me and my child brain
Whose color
couldn't
was this for
comprehend the
Super
idea of
Bowl?
having needles anywhere on the head, or the concept of black magic. I remember asking her repeatedly, "Isn't it painful? Why do they do it? Can they feel it?" She explained that women used it to make themselves irresistibly beautiful, and men would use it to make themselves rich and powerful. As a child, I couldn't wrap my head around the logic and logistics of doing such a procedure. I remember thinking that my grandmother was a nutter, because there was no way anyone could do something so awful to themselves and instantly become beautiful, wealthy, powerful, famous, or successful. It sounded a lot like those endings in fairy tales, where everyone lives happily ever after, immediately at the conclusion of the worst time of their lives. I didn't think much of the story that my grandmother told me until I stumbled across a movie based on this susuk many years later. A relative of mine bought several DVDs of supernatural horror films to watch during the long holidays, one of them being a movie based on the practice. The movie was actually titled Susuk. This piqued my interest because the memory of what my grandmother told me resurfaced. However, she'd been dead for several years at that point, so I couldn't ask her without the utilization of a Ouija board or a psychic. So I turned to good old Google to find out more. Turns out Susuk wasn't as straightforward and clean-cut as the brief story my grandmother told me. Other than the hefty fee and expensive offerings
I don't
to
know
be
which
given to
one
the
to
witch doctor,
use.
the procedure itself was an unstable one, where if the witch doctor was not well trained and incompetent, it could be botched so badly that the life of the person requesting the magical needle treatment will be taken by the very same spirits meant to endow that person with unnatural charm and riches. Even in the case of the successful Susuk application, the newly seductive or fortuitous person has to observe very strict rules to maintain the efficiency of the black magic. These rules include never putting anything pointy in the mouth, never crossing a body of water, do not prick or injure any part of the skin, avoid sacred places and sharp objects, including broken glass and ceramics, must not be out of home on certain days of the month, and never reveal the true names of people and places involved in the procedure. Those who request for plenty of enhancements, where they desire more than just beauty or wealth, must offer more to the witch doctor and the spirits maintaining the black magic, sometimes even blood sacrifices on a regular basis. Death for those with susuk is extremely painful and slow, especially for those who have been fatally wounded or gravely ill, because the spirits bound by black magic will not let the soul leave the body until they have been appeased and freed by the witch doctor. So those who do not remove their susuk on their deathbeds will be in very drawn-out agony, even literally skinned and disemboweled, yet still miraculously alive and enduring every moment in a lucid manner. I, for one, will never take part in any practice of black magic. From the stories my grandmother told me of her childhood filled with supernatural encounters, dark desires of humans, battles between good and evil. I know for a fact that some things in some places are not meant for mere mortals. The Witch of the Towpath, submitted by Metalhead1. Let me start off by saying I've never really held stock in anything ghost or paranormal related. I guess I'm an atheist at my roots, and I love science and logic. But one dark night in my hometown of Williamsport, Maryland, changed the way I think completely. It happened nearly 10 years ago, when I was 16 going on 17 in my hometown. It was one of those places like everybody knows everybody. Not a lot of crime, hardly any violence, beyond the occasional bar fight that ended up in the streets. All that being said, I loved it there. It was peaceful, serene. I moved away, though, after I graduated high school, and still miss it to this day. Anyway, at the time, my girlfriend and I had just broken up. It was a pretty bad and ugly breakup. I was saddened and angry. I had been very much in love with that girl. But breakups happen. Even as a knucklehead teen, I knew this. But I felt distant. I suddenly felt distant from everyone and everything. I wanted to be alone, completely. So I told my folks I was going to one of my many close-knit friends. It was a lie, though. I had no intention to do that. So I walked to the towpath that wasn't far from my house. The walk was always relaxing and therapeutic. Walking the towpath, I admired nature and the river nearby. All of it became even more gorgeous during sunset. It really helped me calm down and helped me think better. I keep walking through the towpath a good ways in, and there's not a soul in sight that night. It was getting pretty dark. I had no care in the world, not with me being emotional at the time. At one point, I sat down, stewing in my emotions and contemplating how I lost her. I'm man enough to admit I cried a little too. As I'm sitting there in the near darkness, completely alone, I suddenly felt the sensation, that cliched feeling people always say they have. It's a real thing, like someone is watching you nearby, someone you can't see, but you know they're there. I've read this phrase many times before, but never did I believe that it actually happened. Yet there I sat, with absolutely no fear in my heart, when something put me on edge. I felt chills and goosebumps. I stayed quiet for a while, steadying my breathing to listen. That's when I heard a rustling in the leaves, maybe 30 or 40 yards away. Right away, I assumed it was a bear. It sounded heavier than the smaller animals, like squirrels or raccoons. So that's what I assumed it was. But bears are pretty rare around these parts. Still, I wasn't about to take a chance with that. I just thought I'd get out of there. I began to steadily jog away. Then I began to convince myself that I'm just imagining things. I slowed down back to a walk, and I laughed to myself, thinking about how silly I'm being. When I hear this out of nowhere, leave now. My goosebumps and chills return tenfold as I spin around, facing where the sound had come from. Keep in mind at this point, it's completely dark out. Not pitch black, but enough to be pretty eerie. And then I see her. Not too far from me, there's a silhouette of a woman. She's hard to see, as she appears to be wearing all black. My heart sank, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my life was in danger. The woman raised one spindly hand towards me and reached out her finger, a bony, withered finger. I wasn't welcome there, and I knew if I didn't listen to the scary woman, she was going to do something unthinkable to me, without even knowing it.
Uh-oh. Yee.
Perhaps by instinct, my eyes were searching for her face, and they found it. She was wrinkly and thin. Half of her teeth were gone, and where her eyes should have been were empty sockets. I snapped myself out of the paralysis, and I bolted out of there as fast as I could. All those years of sports
Hi,
were
Star.
paying off for something important. I exerted every muscle I had, afraid that if I didn't get away from this woman, I wouldn't be alive any longer. After maybe 20 yards of running, I turned behind me, fully expecting her to be gone or away from me. But somehow, she was closer than before, still pointing, but motionless. It was like she was gliding towards me.
Ew.
That's impossible. I turned away again, facing ahead of me. I could see the end of the towpath. I closed my eyes and sprinted until I felt the gravel just before you get to the bridge. I opened my eyes. The bridge was so close, yet so far. Again, rather hesitant this time, I turned around to look at the woman, and immediately I felt tons of relief. She was further away now, but still gliding toward me. This time I couldn't take my eyes off of her, off of the danger that was approaching. But I kept running, not even looking where I was going. And right before my eyes, she seemed to evaporate. Like smoke in the wind, she was just gone. But I'm not nearly done running. I run all the way to my friend's house, the nearest place I felt safe at, and I frantically try to tell them and his dad what I just experienced. Of course, my friend was skeptical and even laughed at me. But for some odd reason, his father took me seriously and believed every word. It turns out, his father has seen the witch of the towpath himself. That's the name he gave her. He claims it's a specter of an old witch that died there, and that to this day she haunts the towpath and will chase anyone away who gets too close. I don't know. I'm still torn about what I saw. I don't know what it was, but the way it moved was inhuman. The way it looked was inhuman. Maybe it really was a witch. Maybe it was my grief-filled mind hallucinating something terrifying. I don't think I'll ever know.
That's creepy.
The Witch Played with Mud. Submitted by Jose. This happened to my dad a long time ago. He was about 10 years old. He and his brother Sergio were out in the fields of Michoacan, feeding the cattle with his father. He said after a long day, they would go to the lake where the water was drinkable, and they would clean themselves, because after a hard day, it was nice to drink fresh water and get clean. The sun was beginning to set at that time, and my dad asked if he and his brother, who was 9 years old at the time, if it was time to go to the lake. After 30 minutes of walking, they arrived. Everything was quiet enough that you could hear only his toes moving on top of the grass. He found the silence odd, but he continued to the water to get a drink with his brother. As they gulped cups of water from their hands, they saw a reflection below them. Immediately, the two boys felt shock, and my father recalls his face going white as they saw a woman in the reflection. She sat atop a boulder behind them in a white gown, and she had jet black hair. They couldn't make out her face, but she was sitting there on the rock, making round circular shaped mud balls with her hands. Suddenly, his brother slapped the water in fear, forcing the reflective image to be nothing but ripples. The two of them backed away from the water and turned around to see their dad facing the woman on the boulder, with the mud ball in her thin hand. She said to the two boys, "I miss us," which means, "Oh, my children." Right away, my dad grabbed my Uncle Sergio, who was still in shock at the sight of the woman, and together They ran back to their dad. My dad grabbed his father by the hand, and together the three of them ran away, but not before their father was tempted to look back. He did, and the lady responded with a vile scream. She sounded like she was in pain or angry. After running for another 16 or 17 minutes, thinking they're finally safe, their father knelt down before them and asked the children, what happened back there? And my dad, being a child still, and believing all the boogeymans from the stories he's been told, he knew what to say. He knew who she was. So he replied, La Llorona,
La
which
Llorona.
means the weeping woman. His dad was, of course, skeptical. La Llorona was simply a bedtime story to them. Instead, his father simply thought that it was a crazed woman. Later that same day, his father went back with a rifle this time, but he didn't find any trace of the woman who'd been there. But he found the mud balls she had been making. Ever since then, no one in their family would go back to the lake, not without protection, and perhaps because he made believe the story of La Llorona. Their father would keep close as the children drank from the water. I often go to Mexico to visit my family. And I want to tell you, the lady my dad saw is real. At least I know she's real. I've heard her before. Her screaming, her crying. It's something you don't want to hear, especially in the middle of the night. The Christmas Witch, submitted by Nicotine Queenie.
Okay, now it's just getting stupid. Hey. La Llorona. I swear I'm always wiping everything down because everything gets dusty. What about this air purifier? Juice, I love you. Juice, I love you. Juice is sleeping. I want that triangle one, that little scoop thingy. Ain't nobody does me, I'm just so fresh, so clean. I know you think I'm so something. La Llorona. Is it this one? I think I'm mixing beads. Ain't nobody does me, I'm just so fresh, so clean. I know you think I'm so sexy, I'm just so fresh, so clean. You know that song? Ain't nobody do better. I'm trying to use these up. I don't have. There's orange. Oh no, I only have red. What can I use? Red and red and clear. Thank you, Helen. I'm wide awake over here. Ain't nobody do best me. I'm just so special. You think I'm so excited? You know what? I'm wondering if I use this red with this. These are the real crystals. And this. I don't know how you pronounce them. Preciosa? Preciosa? And I will use, we have, I kind of want to do a gold. I think I'm going to do a gold. Here we are, the coolest weather on the planet. The sky is something. Ugh. Let's listen to. I want to listen to some kind of story time. Something juicy. He tried to make me pay to see him dating a broke pimp gone wrong. Dating my Uber driver. I fought my manager. Dang. How I caught my ex cheating on me. Let's do that one.
Getting an LLC for your business doesn't have to look like this. Just Google LLC Taylor brand. It's totally. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna tell you guys how I found out my ex was cheating on me. Yep, I didn't want to repeat this story again, except you guys want story times, and I genuinely have such a boring life right now. Like I have no story to tell you. So this is one that I haven't talked about yet. I have talked about it on TikTok, but not on YouTube. So we're just gonna get it over with. As much as I would like to pretend that it didn't happen, it is a juicy story, and you guys deserve to hear it. So let's get straight into it. So back in 2020, I
wonder if I should put it on those or a long one.
All the apps, like I just wanted to find a man, and I think it was more so that validation of just really wanted by man was a boyfriend. I guess it didn't necessarily have a boyfriend, but like someone who's able to make that commitment to me long term. Because if you didn't watch my other video, I had this 6 month long situationship, and I just wanted someone to want me. I wanted someone to make me their long term girlfriend, like someone who wanted to wife me up. So I feel like I was very desperate for that type of attention from someone. So I feel like my standards were just off too hard during that time. So I met this guy on this app. This guy was very outspoken. By outspoken, I mean argumentative. Initially, like I was
Did not understand your English is too
attracted to him
much.
because I love debating. I love arguing with people. Not arguing, but debating. But he was very much giving. Sorry, I'm like
My English?
he was very much giving red pill vibes. Honestly, later in the relationship, I think I really changed his point of view on a lot of things, and he became more liberal himself as well. And like a big topic for us, we actually stopped talking one time because of our views on abortion. I know he's changed his mind about abortions, but point being, he was a very argumentative person. It was always his way, he was always right. And I wasn't the best communicator, so I feel like when we would get into fights and all that. He was really clever with his words and I guess manipulating the situation into making it so I was wrong or I was being crazy or being over dramatic or my boundaries were just too strict or something like that. But that's how I always felt. But don't get me wrong, like I was fighting back to it. I also became very aggressive in the relationship. Initially, it started out as debating, and I was into that, but then later on, it became exhausting almost. So that thing that I thought was a good thing was actually not a good thing. He basically ghosted me for like 2 months, and in the new year, I'm going through a lot. I have a new job. I'm waitressing. I'm making a lot more money than I used to. I get a cat. I'm still struggling with my family situation. I don't really know what I want to do with my life quite yet. Like everything is just up in the air. I don't really know what I want to do with my life. And at this point, I kind of decide, you know what, I'm done thinking about men and boys, whatever. I'm gonna focus on myself. I'm gonna get my money up. I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with my life. As soon as I'm just so set in my brain that I'm just gonna focus on myself, everything's going really well for me, like slowly but surely. This man pops right back into my life. And initially, when we had met, he was very, very cold with me. Like I was kind of chasing him, you know? And then when he ghosted me and came back, it was like the switch had flipped. He was chasing after me, giving me all the attention, and he just went from this cold, mean, argumentative guy. He's still argumentative, but into this golden retriever, obsessed with me, always wanted to be around me guy. In this period of time while he was trying to talk to me, I'm like going back and forth and with him, like I know he wants to date me, but we'll just get into fights and then I'll be like, I'm not talking to you anymore, and then I'll cut him off, but then I'll go back to him. And then it's just this constant cycle of me breaking things off. And I knew it was my brain telling me like something was just always off. And I knew it was my brain telling me that we were like incompatible. And I just refused to get into this relationship with him because it didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. Eventually, I fall for it, obviously. I've never had a guy that's been so adamant on having me, you know. I just had that experience with that 6 month situationship, and it was just nice. And I thought he was a very good looking guy at the time. Obviously, my type has changed, but like at the time, I thought he was way out of my league. I thought he was way too cute for me. Actually, I realized how much of a catch I was, but was kind of excited. I was like, wow, this is my dream man. Except I ignored all the red flags in the beginning, and I will get into that. One big reason why I didn't want to get into a relationship in the first place was because I, as some of you may know, was dealing with a condition called vaginismus. And this is a medical condition where you essentially cannot have sex. Okay? You can't. Won't work. Um, I found out when I went to a gynecologist and I was getting a pap smear, and I went to a physiotherapist and all of that. So he knew that this was a problem, and for him, being in a relationship, being intimate was a very important thing to him. And obviously I explained that I wasn't able to do that, but eventually it got to the point where I was like, you know what? As long as I stay consistent with my physiotherapy, I'll be able to do the deed with I'll be able to do it. I'll just need a couple of months, whatever. And he was okay with that. So at the point that I did say yes to him, and I was like, you know what, fine, we can start dating. I still had my vaginismus. It was not fixed. And yes, I did say that I would try to fix it and all that, and oh, like just give me some time. He went into it knowing that I wasn't able to do that. That's all I'm gonna say because I can hear two sides of it, which I know a lot of people are gonna say our relationship didn't work out because we didn't have sex together. And yes, we dated for 1 year and knew each other for 2 years and did not have sex. Yes, but I'm not gonna say that's the main reason why we broke up because there was a lot of big issues in our relationships beyond being intimate. Like that was definitely one of the biggest ones, but there were a lot of other things going on. So it wasn't just my physical condition that affected our relationship, but I'm gonna try not to shit on him too much because it's not what I'm here to do. I just want to tell my story because it is such an important part of my life. However, I so this guy, for majority of our relationship, he did not have a job. He still lived with his parents. He's older than me, by the way, by a few years. Um, he never graduated high school. Here's my obviously meant he wasn't attending university, and I'm someone who really values education myself. Like I was working, but I was also in school studying nursing. He
Ooh, this one's
was
coming out
a
pretty.
gamer, so he would get very unreasonably mad when he would lose games, and I mean like disruptive. Like, honey, that is not what we do. Can't believe I was ever okay. My friends probably think I'm insane because I remember I would hide it from my friend and I didn't want to tell them because I'm like, you just don't understand. But it's like, what is there to understand? We shouldn't be doing that. He would lose his temper with his brother. Like, there was just a lot of yelling and there was just always a lot of yelling. And I don't even think it was yelling. I think he's just naturally a very loud person. He just speaks loud. I don't know what it is. And it runs in the family. Like him and his dad would always be yelling and screaming, and his brother. And like it would get to points where I'd start crying because I was so overwhelmed. And he'd be like getting mad at his brother and dad for screaming because it makes him uncomfortable. Yeah. So I think he was just naturally a loud person. And then I became a very loud person, I guess, as well. So instead of having conversations, whatever, with him, I would start yelling. Like it just it made me into a terrible person, honestly. I feel that relationship turned me into a very aggressive, loud, not chill person
I'm
because
trying to make sure I have enough of the
toxic or anything like that,
crystals.
but I feel like I turned into that being in that relationship, which I think is weird. Yes, I think you should hold yourself accountable for your own actions, and I do, but I do think that that played a part in my where's my brush? I just don't understand how I was supposed to be attracted to him when all this was going on. Yelling matches with his dad. And I just don't understand how, like, when I think back at it, how was I supposed to want to be intimate with this person with all these things happening? Like, it's traumatic, you know? You don't want to build a relationship with someone when you're dealing with all these other things. Like in the beginning, I was so attracted to him. I found him so cute. I was obsessed with him. And don't get me wrong, we hung out with each other all the time. Like there were obviously really great parts to the relationship. Like there's a reason why I was deluded into thinking everything was good, you know? Like we did have really good times together, but the bad times were bad. It got to a point where I didn't even want to kiss him. I didn't even like the thought of it just made me like I like hanging around him and him being in my presence and all, but I did not want to kiss him. Any intimate touching, like I was just like, ew, don't touch me. Like stay over there on that couch and let's watch this movie together and have a good time. Like, that was my version of a good time. I just he was no longer attracted to me in that sense. And I think it's because I was anxiously attached to him. It wasn't that I was always around him and wanted to be with him because I was in love with him, but like I did have love for him, but it was more just as a person that's there. I don't know if that makes sense. I mentioned he never graduated high school. I always try to
Codependency, honey,
justify that
codependency.
too because he left to go abroad to go play soccer when he was younger. So that's why he never finished school. Then COVID happened and this and that happened. I really did feel like he was such a victim, and I felt bad, and I just wanted to help him in any way that I could. And I felt like it wasn't fair for me to judge him because all these things happened, COVID happened, like it ruined people's lives, and I was really sympathetic to that. And I thought, he can jump back up, he has such great work ethic. Look at all these years he spent committed to soccer, we can apply that in other ways. He just stopped working out, I guess, too, doing like the soccer thing. I was really holding on to that soccer thing. I was like, he's gonna be a football player, he's gonna be a soccer player. But then he like, he gained a lot of weight and he ended up getting like quite chubby as well. I had to sit through all of that. Like I really saw him at his worst, like literally absolute worst. And I was still just like so in love with him and oh my god, I'm gonna take care of him and everything's gonna be good and we're such a power couple, blah, 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 whatever. I would lend him my car. I made a resume with him. I would drive him around to help him look for jobs. I was just so involved in his life. Like I helped him do his taxes. He didn't know how to do that. And I was very much the man in this relationship. And I think that grew a lot of resentment. I felt like I was in shit, honestly. I felt like I was dating a child. This resentment was building in our relationship. And not to mention, we were also fighting all the time. Because again, he was a very argumentative person. And you just fight and fight and fight all the time. Anyways, so he eventually gets his job at a club that's across from where I work. So I work at a restaurant as a bartender. There's a club right across the street from us, and he gets a job there as a busboy. And I'm like, oh, hopefully he can work up towards being a bartender because they get paid a lot. Like I was making $6,000 a month at that point.
Dang, I should become a bartender.
And he's
I don't think I would. My
he's bragging about
my
Christmas work party.
I don't think I would allow it though. It's kind of like selling drugs.
Got a good one, whatever. He was just so proud to be dating me. He was telling everyone about it. And one day I get a message on Instagram from some girl that works at the place that he works at. And she's like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but your boyfriend went home, took a girl home last night. Like he left with her last night. Just wanted you to know. And rumors are going around like they're sleeping together. And my heart drops. And I'm like, okay, don't freak out. I message him. And his first reaction is he gets mad. He gets so mad. He's like, oh my god, they're trying to sabotage, whatever. Don't look like block her right now. And I'm just like, what? And mind you, this entire time I'm thinking my man is so loyal to me. Like he is a lot of things. He is a bum. He has nothing going on in his life, but you know what? He's loyal to me. That was why I liked him so much because I genuinely thought he was such a loyal person. And I found that very attractive as well. Like that was the one thing that I was holding on to. I was like, he hasn't slept with me and he's just so loyal to me. Like, where can you find a guy that's like that?
Nowhere.
Spoke too soon. He explains to me the situation. Basically, he had driven a girl coworker home. So she was out partying with her friends at the club that he works at, and she stayed there after her friend had left, and he offered her a ride home after he was done work. So she basically stood there at the bar until he was done work. She drove him home. And he told me that night he told me he was driving his good male friends home. And I do remember this conversation with him. And the reason why I didn't think he was cheating was because at this point we pretty much spent every single night together. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that night I had gone home to him. So I was like, there's no way in that short amount of time he would have cheated on me. Um, so I chose to believe that, he was just being stupid. He knew that I had strict boundaries with girls and he just didn't want to risk an argument. So he just lied and said he was driving a guy home instead of saying he was a girl. I did believe that. I still do believe that to this day. And then that was a big fight we had. Another big fight we had was he brought two girls home, two of his girl coworkers home and cooked them dinner. And I was very
Dinner?
why are you bringing these girls home to your place when I'm not there? Like it's just weird. I don't even know them. And he thought I was overreacting, and it only took his dad's girlfriend for him to say that was messed up, for him to realize that it was messed up. Like he thought I was overreacting. That was always the case. If me and my friends disagreed with something that he did, he'd be like, "No, that's just you guys. Like most people don't think that way." And I'm like, "What do you mean most
This
people?
needle's
The
too
people that
short.
you surround yourself with, those people that work in the clubs and stuff like that. I know the type of people they are. Okay, I've met a lot of people like that. They're all thoughts. They're all hoes. The guys and the girls, they all sleep with each other. They all spread rumors. Like those are those type of people. So if you're taking advice from those type of people, and people that aren't in healthy relationships, don't come at me about my boundaries. I'm sorry. I don't think my boundaries are crazy at all. This one time, okay, so I never looked at his phone, but this one time I just had a feeling and I looked at his phone and I saw he was searching up a bunch of girls on Instagram. And I just freaked out on him. I was like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Sorry." Like, I was just searching them up, like we were fighting and stuff. And they would pop up on my TikTok and I just searched them up on Instagram. And I just got really upset with that. So that was another thing. And then I had a huge fight asking to look at his phone and he refused to show me. And then I drove off and when I drove back home, he was still there and he's like, "Oh, my phone died, but you can look at my phone now." And I was like, "Now you're gonna let me look at your phone when you've had like 30 minutes to look at it through like yourself or whatever?" Just the most idiotic things. I don't know why I didn't break up with him then. Like I'm such an idiot. He later asked me for an open relationship until I can fix my vaginismus. Yep, this man said he wanted to go have sex with other people while I was struggling with my medical condition. And until I could fix it, he was going to be one of other girls' places and all that. And I said, "No, you either break up with me and you lose me forever, obviously, or you choose to stay loyal to me and sacrifice, not being able to be intimate until I am ready to do so." And he took this, even at the time, I thought, like, oh, I was so bad for giving him this type of ultimatum, but I don't feel wrong for that at all. If you do not love me enough to stay with me, for me to fix this thing, first of all, you shouldn't have even been in a relationship with me. If it got to that point where it was you couldn't handle it anymore, that you wanted to be in an open relationship, then break up with me. Be a man. Be responsible for what you want in life. Break up with me. But no, he didn't want to break up with me. He stayed with me, and I was like, "Oh, my man is so loyal." So at this point, also, he is not telling his coworkers about me anymore. Okay. This is close to the time about the open relationship. So when people ask him if he has a girlfriend, he's told me this. When people ask him if he has a girlfriend, he says no. He says, "I don't know." Like he won't tell people anything about our relationship. And his reasoning is he just doesn't want people to get involved because they love spreading shit and starting shit. And he doesn't want it to affect his relationship. And at the time, I thought it was really weird. He wouldn't post me that often at all. Like honestly, he rarely posted me. He posted me like on my birthday. I think that's about it.
That's a red flag.
Before, so he just stopped.
Do you think
Like with his coworkers.
people not posting their significant other is a red flag?
Seems like they're bad people.
You 17 people that are on. Or would you rather keep your person private?
There are so many of these red flags that I just
Oh, it's so pretty.
I don't know why. He made me think that I was crazy already for a lot of
Kitty, check your moderators.
Even more crazy.
Why? What's going on?
Eventually, I decide to break up with him. I'm like,
what is Curtis doing?
This intimacy issue, this intimacy issue is really affecting our relationship.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Also really affecting our relationship. I said, "We're gonna break up. I'm gonna fix my vaginismus. Like, I can't have you around me. It's not helping me. I'm gonna fix this and I'm gonna come back. And by the time I come back, you're gonna have your shit together. Like with your finances and all that and your work. And you're gonna get another job." Because I think he was looking for another job at this point because he was just not making enough at the club as a buster. And he agrees. And I asked him to not hook up with anyone while we're on this while like I essentially break up with him. And obviously I didn't want him to, but if he did, I would be upset, but I did break up with him, so I wouldn't hold it against him that much if he was to. Mind you, he is still a punk, guys. Like I'm spending over $2,000 to fix this condition on like treatments, medication. Like I'm going all out to try to fix this for him. I don't even want to be able to enjoy being intimate. I just want it to not feel like someone is stabbing me with a knife. Okay. If I can get it to where I feel nothing, then perfect. I can please him. Like, ew, 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 ew.
Curtis, what are you doing out there?
Cared about my own enjoyment. I just wanted him to be happy. Guys, I literally thought I was gonna marry this man, okay? Like doing all this to be able to fix
Doing
myself
all of that just so he
and
can get laid?
that can barely afford a meal. Yeah, I'm really close to fixing this condition. I'm getting really hopeful. And we start talking again. I think we go on like 2 dates. And everything is going well. We're trying to reconnect the spark. One night, he tells me that, so there's this girl that I started being friends with at my work. We were getting a lot closer to each other. And we were even considering moving in with each other. So she's actually my
She gave
roommate
him
now,
too
but
many
she's-
choices.
Anyways, me and her were getting closer. and
But
then
isn't that kind
she
of
was
sad
telling
though?
me
Because we,
uncomfortable with how she was being touchy with him while he was
we,
her
maybe she doesn't have someone to tell her, you know? I didn't.
If you're dating someone. So it's funny because his mindset became a lot like mine in terms of how you should respect your other partner. And so he said that was really weird and uncomfortable and he didn't like that. And he said not to tell her, but I was like, why shouldn't I tell her? Like, I'm gonna go tell her and tell her that that's not okay because I have certain boundaries. Like, I don't care if anyone hugs my ex, but you shouldn't, or hugs my boyfriend, but you shouldn't be like jumping on him and wrapping your legs around. I think that's inappropriate. So I said, you know what? We're new friends. I should just go talk to her and tell her that that's not okay. And that's
So
it. Like,
watching
there's
from the
no harm
outside.
done.
Oh.
Move on. Just let her know. So I text her, hey, like I want to talk to you about something.
Yeah, Curtis
And
always does that.
she's like, actually, yes, I want to talk to you about something as well. So she actually suggests coming over to my place, and I'm like, oh, sure. So she comes over, says, you go first, assuming hers was probably like much worse. I don't know. So I tell her, I'm like, hey, so my ex was really uncomfortable with how touchy you were at the club with him a few nights ago. And honestly, like personally for me, I think it's inappropriate as well, like people being super touchy with my man, even if it's like my super close friend. And the look on her face, she just looks so dumbfounded. She's like, first of all, I'm so sorry. That was completely inappropriate of me. I was really drunk and I just I just was being touchy for absolutely no reason. And at this time, me and my ex were obviously not together, but still, I thought it was inappropriate. And she's like, I agree. That's all we're gonna say. That's never gonna happen again. I agree with you. Now let me tell you what I need to tell you. So that night she was at the club and she jumped and hugged my boyfriend. One of his guy friends was like, hey, are you talking to him? And she's like, no, why? Doesn't he have like a girlfriend or something? Like acting like she doesn't know, obviously, because he's friends with my boyfriend. And he goes, nah, he sleeps with a bunch of girls. They're on and off all the time. And my friend is just like, what do you mean? Like, when's the last time he slept with someone? And he'd be like, oh, yeah, like 2 weeks ago. And mind you, me and my ex were talking in these 2 weeks, and even before then. So my friend's like, interesting. She shows me the Instagram of, I think, one of them. So there's a few. I think there's like three. Well, she tells me this, and she's like, I know you're gonna freak out, but I do know you want to work things out with him. He did do this while you guys weren't technically together, so maybe just like don't be too mad or anything. Like just have a conversation and see where it goes. So I agree. I'm obviously crying, and this is like right before my birthday too. Like I think a few days before my birthday that I find out that this has happened. So I drive over to his house. I drive over to his house. I go into his parents' house. We live with his parents, or he lived with his dad, but his dad was he's in another city. I go downstairs to the basement where his room is. I go into his room. I grab his phone. I knew his phone password. I just chose never to go in it because I just thought that he was so loyal, and I didn't feel like I needed to check his phone because, if he's gonna cheat, he's gonna cheat. You can't really control that. I don't think people can always hide it in their phones as well and delete things. So I just gave him the benefit of the doubt. I never thought that he'd be capable of cheating. And so I look in his phone, I see him texting me, I love you so much, blah, 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 whatever. Right below it, he's sexting another girl. Like girls. And then I see Tinder on his phone. I go on the app talking like so not even like nicely, like dirty. You know when you message someone you're getting to know them, and they're like, oh, what do you do for blah blah blah, like you're really pretty, whatever. No, it was just gross, like literally gross. I thought I knew him, and seeing those texts, I was like, oh my God, I do not know who this person is. And I confront him, and he admits to sleeping with these randos. And then I ask him, I'm like, did you do this while we were dating? You need to come out clean about everything right now. If you want any hope of saving this relationship, then you need to tell me everything right now. And I was like, did you fuck someone while we were dating? And he says yes. And I've seen this girl, guys. I know it doesn't matter whether they're attractive or not, but I don't understand why guys literally cheat on their girlfriends
What
with
ugly ass chicks.
two guys. I'm not even joking. I was shocked when I saw her. But anyways, obviously because it's not about looks, it's not about how attractive you are or whatever. When people cheat, it's all on them and their insecurities. So he says that, and I just break down, and I don't even know what I do after that. It was so hard for me to stop talking to him, like to completely cut him off, only because I was just so anxiously attached to him. He was trying to win me back from January to August of last year. So January 2023. It was very hard for me to stop talking to him. Eventually I did. But like he would
I don't
try to
know if I
win me
should do
back
this
because
one or
he
the
ruined it for himself. Because at some point I
or
did,
the
I
long
guess,
ones.
forgive him for cheating. And it was just hard for me to forget. But I just didn't trust him. He would ruin it for himself. And I'll tell you how. This one time we spent the whole day together, and then I had to go to work. And then when I was done work at like 1 or 2 a.m., I was like, oh, you know what? I want to go see him. I really miss him. Like I had such a good time. I go to his house, I walk it. He doesn't respond to my text. I'm like, oh, whatever. He must be sleeping. I'll just go, whatever, it's fine. He's a night owl. I walk in and there's a girl there. And he comes out and I just run out. I go straight to my car. And he comes out and he's like, oh, babe, what are you doing? You're confusing me. I thought you said you didn't want to be with me, whatever. And it's like, I would say those things. I'd be like, I hate you. I don't trust you. I don't like you. I don't want a relationship with you, all those things. But I was still hanging out with him because he was trying to win me back. And I was saying those things out of like protection for myself, I guess. Like even though I was saying those things,
It's
you're the one that's trying to win
pretty.
me back. Like, why are you talking to other people? He's like, well, it's because you said those things. I'm like,
It has a
you're gonna
gold
hang out with
back.
me the next day. Like, how does that make sense if you're trying to win me back and you're seeing me all the time? And yeah, I have my walls up as expected. Did you just think I was gonna be like, oh yay, like you're off the hook? No, but then you go and do these things like me walking into you hanging out with a girl. When I was going to Vegas, I wanted to check if, I should be loyal to him or not. Like I was just second guessing things. I was like, if I'm on this trip, like, is he gonna do things, whatever. So while he's sleeping, I grab his phone and I go into the washroom and I unlock it and I look at it. And again, I don't go into his phone at all. So this is like I think the third time that I've ever looked into his phone. Nasty texts with girls. Literally, like we would hang out the whole day. And then during that day, he'd be texting people like after we'd stop hanging out. And it's disgusting. Like he'll literally be like to this girl, oh, it's okay if you're babysitter. If you can't find a babysitter, I don't mind like me, you, and the kid hanging out. Like, whose mother are you talking to right now, sir? Oh my goodness. I felt like throwing up. And at this point, I'm just so done. I feel like I'm so used to this betrayal now. Like, and he somehow makes it not his fault. Like he says, what do you expect from me? You're not dating me. You're saying there's a zero chance we'll get back together. So who cares if I'm messaging these people? And I'm just like, you're trying to win me back right now, are you not? Like, we're not just casually seeing each other. Like, you're trying to win me back. Is that not what you're trying to do? The last straw for me was when a girl from that used to work with him was recently hired at where I work, and I was training her and stuff. And then she mentioned that that's where she used to work. And I was like, oh my God, did you know? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, yes. And I was like, yeah, I'm his ex. And she just goes like this. She looks so shocked and she's like, oh my God. I am so sorry.
Now with Cox Mobile.
Bro, you tell a woman that you dated a certain man and she goes, I'm so sorry. He was so disrespectful. I guarantee he did some fucked up shit. And that was the most eye-opening thing for me because I didn't really know people that he
I can't
knew.
get in
I
this
never really got
corner.
like an outside perspective on who he is from someone that I liked. And I really liked her. She seemed like a really nice girl. We had like so many similarities. And so when she said that, I was asking her, like, what do you mean by that? And I was asking her questions, like, what was he like around other people? Like, was he flirt? And she's like, yeah, he was like known to be this flirtatious guy that just would talk to girls all the time like that and very openly flirty. And like, I knew he had a girlfriend and I thought it was weird that he was acting that way. I tell her obviously that I'm still talking to him. And then I basically confront him about this conversation that I had with this girl. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to have self respect for myself. The fact that another woman said that to me makes me so ashamed that I'm still talking to you. And he gets mad. And so she's actually dating a guy that he's really close to. So I'm assuming he tells the guy. And then later on, when my ex is out, she comes up to him and says, oh, I don't know what you heard, but like I didn't say anything, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, girl, and my ex confronts me saying I lied. And I'm like, why would I lie about not wanting
Can
to
you
talk
use
to you
size
because of
10
something from a girl? Like,
or is
I would
10
still
big?
wanna be with you and talk to you if I hadn't heard that, you know? It just didn't make sense. Like, why would I lie about that? Literally went, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and literally said that he was really
10
flirty
feels
and
bigger.
he thought it was weird considering he had a how I don't know how else I'm going to take that conversation, girly. And I never talked about her in a malicious way, being like, yeah, she said these horrible things about you. I was just like she opened my eyes up.
Yeah,
I
I
saw the
think you
light.
can.
I finally have the self-respect of stopping and talking to him, and he's obviously still heartbroken. I blocked him off of everything, and we basically are done by mid to end August 2022. A couple months later, my friend or not a couple, I think it's 4 months later. I'm not sure. I think it was like in November or December. I'm not sure. Anyway,
I think after this,
my ex
I'm going to
and in my head, I'm just like, well, if they're
probably lay down and scroll.
It was just, it was shock to me. I was genuinely really shocked that they had gotten together so soon, especially because he was so heartbroken over everything. He made it seem like I was the girl that got away, I was the love of his life, this and that. And then after hearing that he had gone with someone so quick, and apparently he has been following this girl on Instagram since January. From January to August, he's talking to me, trying to win me back.
She was completely blind. Yeah.
I only knew about this because
I'm guilty of doing some dumbass shit too, or some
had him
for guys.
and that's how she found out because he was posting her, which is crazy because he would never post me. Always so crazy. They always do the things that you wanted them to do when they find a new girl.
Yep.
It's almost like, are you trying to like prove something to me? It just seemed like all of what he said just wasn't true because of how easily he found someone. It really just opened my eyes. Although this relationship was very traumatizing for me, I think it was really important at the same time. I feel like I learned so much about myself. My standards and expectations in men has literally skyrocketed. Like I feel like I had all the textbook bad boyfriend behavior. I've dealt with all of that. And so now none of it will go over my head. Looking back now, if I had met my ex at this point now.
Okay, we're done with you. Selena Quintanilla. Unhinged Reddit stories. I want to listen to like some crazy ass stories. That way she can get a rose or two. Ooh. my back. Oh. Being friends with the work thought. Facebook dating gone horribly wrong. How long is that? 27 minutes. Yeah, let's try that one. She's a sister.
So, if you are a returning subscriber, hey girl, hey. If you are new here, my name is Destiny. I'm 29 years old. Oh my God, I'm almost be 30 next month. Like, yes, I'm 29 years old. I'm an Aries, and yeah, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. So, oh my gosh, y'all see the title of the story. I haven't learned my lesson with them dating apps. And Jesus, it just gets worse and worse and worse every time. Like, when am I never learn. Like, I never learn. So, this is a true story that happened yesterday. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into the story time.
I need to start dating.
People always ask me, oh, why you don't make a story time about me? Why don't you have make a story about me yet? Like, when are y'all going to realize that I only make story times about the people who just totally blew it? If you haven't totally blew it, then that's why you're not on display on my channel. That's why I haven't mentioned you or I haven't made a story time about you because you haven't totally blew it. The people that totally blow it, those are the people who are displayed on this here channel. So yeah, obviously this person totally blew it. So yeah, it's time for you to get your 15 minutes of fame on this channel. So let's start the story from the beginning. So I'm back on the dating apps or whatever. I was on a dating app.
I still can't get on
So
Facebook
I
dating
met
too.
this guy on an app. We wind up, matching, whatever. I'm trying
Dang,
to
this
think
needle's
what I would
really
say.
thick.
It was Facebook dating, actually, y'all. Facebook dating, not a dating
Yeah,
app.
well,
Facebook dating. I guess it is a dating app. It's an app.
reminds me of Drake. I'm just kidding.
So I met him on Facebook dating this time. So, a little bit different than what I was on the first time, where I met, y'all know, the hotel guy the one who didn't have no money. This is totally different. So, sorry, y'all, I'm a little bit thirsty, a little bit parched. It's early in the morning.
That reminds me, I gotta take a sip too.
We're gonna call him Corey because his name Corey. So yeah, I met Corey on Facebook dating. Corey and I met exactly 3 weeks ago, and we met on Facebook dating, and we, sent a couple of text messages back and forth. I'm not on the internet all day, every day. I have a job. Y'all know I'm a dental assistant. I work in a dental office. Obviously, I work with my hands. And y'all know I got 2 kids. If you didn't know that about this channel, about me, I am a mother. I have 2 children, two of them things. I got the whole 2 piece. I have a 12-year-old daughter who will be 13 in October, and I have a 7-year-old son who will be 8 in June. So I have 2 kids, one girl, one boy. That's all I have to give. That's it. So I'm busy with my kids and work. I don't have time to sit all day and text back and forth on an app. So if somebody do ask me for my phone number, I don't mind giving it to them because I'm not on the internet all day. I'm working. I have bills, a job, responsibilities. Hello, hello. So Corey asked me for my number. I gave him my number. Okay, whatever, why not? So, y'all, I have been having problems with my car lately. I'm actually it's getting ready to get fixed today. I have a mechanic coming by to fix it. I needed to get a tune up and stuff on it. And a few things was wrong with my car. So I have been having problems with my car. So Corey was an early bird, just like me. I get up early in the morning for work, even on the weekends. Like it's whole Sunday morning right now, and I'm up telling y'all this story. This is early morning, so I'm an early bird. I get up early in the morning every day. That's just me. I like to get up, have my coffee, take my shower, get my day started, start doing what I have to do. So I'm always up early in the morning. Corey was up too because he works at some type of finance building somewhere. So he gets up early for work as well. So one day I was on the phone with Corey in the morning time and it was like super cold in Michigan. We had went through like a few cold days where it was like 1 and 2 degrees in the negative. So it was super, super cold. So my car had been having problems. So I'm on the phone with him one morning. I'm like, oh, yeah, my car is messing up. So I think I might just go ahead and take a lift to work. So he's like, oh, no, you don't need to take a lift to work or whatever, that's not necessary or whatever. I'll I can pick you up or whatever and give you a ride to work. So I said no or whatever, like I don't know you like that. No. So I went on ahead and took the lift to work back and forth for a couple of days or whatever while it was super cold. And then after that, um, we decided to go out on a date. So he's like, would you like to go out with me? Okay, sure. If I'm on a dating app, I'm looking for a date. So I'm not one of those girls. Like when I talk to guys and they tell me about the stuff that they see on people, dating profile or whatever, and it's like, don't ask me for my number or don't ask me out or skip the small talk and all of that. It's like, why are you here? If you don't want, like, small talk is hello, how are you doing? So if you're telling somebody skip the small talk, how are they even getting a chance to know you? How are you even getting a chance to know them? And you're telling them, oh, skip the small talk, no small talk, whatever. So he like, let's go out. So I'm a big Taco Tuesday girl. I really love Taco Tuesday. I'm all about tacos on Tuesday. Every Tuesday come around, I feel like the world just owes me tacos. I feel like I just need to have some tacos and tequila. That's just what it is. So that's just what it is. So Taco Tuesday rolls around. We decide to go out for some tacos at this bar downtown called Loving Tequila. So they have really good birria tacos. I love birria tacos. Those are my favorite kind of tacos. So they have really great tacos at this spot. So I decided that we should go there. As I said, it was one of the real um cold days. Like the cold spell was coming down, but it was still super cold. So my car like just really wasn't doing good in the cold weather. As I said, that's why I have the mechanic coming over today to fix the car and fix everything that I needed to get fixed on it. So I had asked him like, hey, well, just come and pick me up so we can go out. So y'all, I just never be learning my lesson telling these crazy, crazy idiots where I live. I just don't know why. So he comes to pick me up. Everything's cool. We go out on our date. So a few things that he did on the date kind of stood out to me. So as I said, we went out for tacos. When we first got to the bar, we sat down. The waitress comes up. She asks us if we wanted anything to drink. Well, the bartender rather, she comes up and asks us if we like anything to drink. Love and Tequila obviously is a place that sells tequila. So I'm a Don Julio drinker. That's just what I like to drink. Anyway, Don Julio Reposado.
R.I.P. Don
So when she
Julio.
walked up, I asked for that. She said they were out of that. So she said all they had was Patron, Terramana, and Milagro and Reposado. I'm a Reposado drinker. I don't really care for a Anejo because I don't like the taste of it. The Blanco is just too strong to me. So I like Reposado. So I went with the Terramana. He was like, oh, I never had that before. I'll have a shot of that too.
He got all wasted, I bet.
So we get our shots. And then a few minutes later, the food comes out. So he's like, oh, well, would you like to go to the bathroom and wash your hands before you start eating? I said, okay, sure. So he said, I'll go first. He get up, goes to wash his hands, comes back.
That goes first.
Wash my hands and come back. When I'm on my way back over to the bar from washing my hands, I hear him asking the bartender, excuse me, but how much was those shots? So she tells him they were $16 each. He's like, oh, okay, like it's no big deal. So I said,
oh shit, I messed up.
My tacos.
Too busy listening to this.
We're having a good time. Conversation is good. Whatever. Everything's cool. So after I finish my tacos, I turn to him and I say, I'm like, hey, can we get another shot? And he goes, no, we can't get another shot because those shots were $16. How are you taking somebody out and you worrying about how much some shots is? He's like, those shots were $16. So no, we can't get another shot. So I mean that was already red flag number one. Because what do you mean? So I'm like, okay, whatever. So that was our first date. We finish our tacos, we leave the bar, I go home, whatever. Fast forward to about a week later, I have a situation going on at home. Something totally separate or whatever was going on between me and my ex-husband. So long story short, long story short, I don't want to get into that because that's just personal. But long story short, I had a situation go on at home between me and my ex-husband. Not literally at home, but between me and him, because he obviously don't live here. So I'm going through that. Meanwhile, Corey's all in the background, like, oh, whatever you need, I can help you out, this and that, this and that. So I'm like, if a man comes to me and tell me whatever he need, whatever I need, he got me and all of that, I'm gonna hold you to it. So don't come over to me and what you need to for me to feel for you to have a man and what can a man do to come in your world and this and that? Because the first thing I'm gonna do is hit them pockets. What you got for me? You talking about what I need and what you can do to show me you a man and this and that. What do you got for me? What do you got? So I'm like, whatever you need, I can give it to you or whatever. So he winds up giving me some money. Okay, whatever, that's cool. He winds up letting me borrow some money that I needed um for some things. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you your money back, when I get paid in a week. So he like, okay, so a week later, a week goes by, I get paid, I give him his money, everything was cool. I give him his money, everything's normal, everything's normal. Fast forward to Friday night. I go out to dinner with one of my friends. After I dropped my kids off with their grandmother, my mother, I went to the mall to do a little bit of shopping. Corey calls me on the phone. He's like, oh, what you doing this weekend? I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm kid free or whatever, but I'm out at the mall right now doing some shopping and, enjoying myself since I finally got some kid free time. Like, what's up? So he's like, oh, call me when you leave the mall. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll call you then. So one of my friends winds up meeting me up at the mall because she happened to be getting her hair done at a salon not too far from the mall. So she called me like, hey girl, I just finished my hair. What you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm at the mall. I had went shopping at Ulta because I needed some makeup, and Ulta is located inside of the mall.
I want to go shopping at
So
Ulta.
I went to the mall. I went to Ulta to get me some makeup and things I had ran out of for the weekend because I wanted to go out and I was out of makeup. So I'm at Ulta. And my friend's like, okay, I'll meet you up there. So she comes up to Ulta. We get our makeup and whatnot. Then we decide we want to go and eat dinner. So me and my friend really love Longhorn. I told y'all that in the story time about the other guy. Me and my friends love Longhorn. So we wanted to go to Longhorn for dinner. That's one of our favorite restaurants. I'm sorry, I keep looking over here. I'm filming in the living room and people is like walking by. I live on a busy street. So a lot of people are walking by with their dogs and stuff, and it's kind of distracting me. So if you see me look that way, it's like somebody's walking past and it's distracting me. So we decided to go out to dinner. He's calling me while I'm at dinner with my friend, like, oh, what are you doing? This and that. I'm like, I'm at dinner. He's like, oh, who are you with? I'm like, my friend. Well, who's your friend? Why are you asking me who my friend is? I'm not your girlfriend. Stop worrying about it. So I'm like, my friend. And then I say my friend's name. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, just call me later when you leave, when you get home and whatnot. So I get home. I decide not to call him because me and my friend had a few margaritas at the restaurant and I don't want to be bothered. I'm not obligated to be bothered with you. It's my life. It's my phone. You don't pay this phone bill. I don't have to answer the phone. I don't have to text you back. I didn't have to call you. You're not my man. So I decided not to call him. When I got home, me and my friend had some margaritas, some Don Julio margaritas at that. So we was a little bit tipsy. I was ready to just take off my clothes and go to sleep. I didn't want to go over to his house, hang with him, chill with him, none of that, because he wanted me to come over and spend the night. I didn't want to spend the night. I'm busy. I just wanted to stay home. Sometimes when my kids are going, I don't want to go out and stay everywhere. I just want to stay home and rest. Me and my friend went to an early dinner because, excuse me, I'm drinking this pop. Me and my friend went to a early dinner because she had to get up for work in the morning, and she decided she didn't want to stay out late. So she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna, go home early. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So by the time I got home, it was kind of early. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay home. So I didn't call him back. I get up the next morning. I get up the next morning. Someone else calls me. My man called me. My other man called. He's like, "What you doing? About to come by? Okay, whatever." I'm like, "Okay, sure, come by. This is my man. I don't mind if he come by. Okay, whatever, sure, come by." So as soon as I hang up the phone with him, he says he's gonna come by. I turn around. Corey is in my driveway. Why are you here? Like, I haven't talked to you. Why are you here? He's like, "Oh, I want to have a conversation with you because you haven't been texting and calling me back." Like, okay, I talked to you last night. I told you I would call you. Like, I'm not obligated to call you. Why are you here? He's like, "I want to have a conversation with you, and you need to have a conversation with me now." And I'm like, "I don't want to have a conversation right now." I'm like, okay, I'm going through some things, just basically trying to get rid of him because I got my man on the way. So I'm basically just trying to get rid of him so he can go ahead and leave. I'm like, "Okay, you need to go. Like, I'll call you later. I got some stuff going on. I need to go and run by my mama house. Like, you gotta go. Like, you need to just leave, basically." So he's like, "Okay, fine, just call me later so we can talk or whatever. I just want to talk to you." So I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll call you later." So he leaves. My man come by. We're chilling, sitting in the living room on the couch, chilling, just talking. I'm sitting with my back turned to the window, and my man is sitting where I'm sitting. So, and I'm sitting next to me. You guys can't see, but I'm sitting with my back turned to the window. He's sitting where I'm sitting. So, next thing I know, he goes, "Who is that?" So I turn around. Corey is walking up on my porch looking mad as ever, looking just so mad. So I'm like, "Oh my God, like, oh my gosh. Like, this is not for real. Like, he's not walking up on my porch right now." So he starts banging on my door. Bang, 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 bang. So my man, we just gonna call him. What should we call him? What should we call him? We just gonna call him. We just gonna call him Beard because he got a cute beard. So Beard gets up and goes over to the door. So he opened the door like, "Can I help you?" Oh no, no. He opened the door like, "Can I help you? What the fuck you want?" Blase ski. He said some choice words that I won't say. Who are you? Basically, who are you? So he like, "Tell Destiny to come outside. I just want to have a conversation with her." So I go to the porch. I go to the door and I'm like, "Corey, what are you doing here?" So the second I say his name, Beard looks at me and he realizes like, okay, she knows some. This is obviously somebody she knows. Like, okay, let me just sit down and let her handle her thing. So he step out the way and sit back down on the couch. So I go out on the porch and I'm like, "Corey, what are you doing here? I just told you that I will call you later." And he's like, "Well, I wanted to have a conversation with you and I want to do it now." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to talk to you right now. And I'm pretty busy." He's like, "Who's that in there? Is that your baby daddy?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you know what? You know what? You're trash." He's like, "You know what? You're trash and you're dismissed." So I'm like, "Okay, sure." So he turns around to walk away. I'm thinking he walking away, but he didn't park in my driveway because Beard's car was in my driveway. So he couldn't park my driveway. This man parked 3 houses down in one of my neighbor's driveway, not in front of their house, in their driveway, and then walked his little self down to my house when he walked up on the porch and was banging on my door. So when he told me I was dismissed and he left out the door, I'm thinking, okay, he's walking back to his car and he's going to leave. No, it wasn't over, y'all. This man said, "Oh, I got something for her." This man walks up to my car and starts punching my car windows. pushing, you're trash, you're trash, you're trash, punching my windows, you're trash, you're trash, you're trash, B, you're trash, you're trash. I'm like, oh my God. So at this time, me and B are both just staring at him like he's not serious. So I'm outside. So at this time, I run outside. I'm like, Corey, what are you doing? Stop, stop, stop. He's like, you're trash. Like, bro, like, you've known me all of 3 weeks. Like, I was feeling you. You're trash. You're trash. It's no way you was just feeling me like this. Like, here is the thing. Here is the thing. Because I know y'all might be sitting at home thinking, like, how you saying you got a man, but this guy was here. Yes, I have a man, but that's not my boyfriend. That's not my boyfriend. So, yes, I went out on the date with Corey. That's not my boyfriend, but that's somebody that I've been dating for a long time. Y'all know how it is. Everybody have that person who that they still deal with. And y'all might not be together, but hey, it is what it is. But shit, if we're not together, then shit. Like sometimes I be feeling like maybe I do need to try to move on. But every time I do try to move on, y'all, that's why I do take these chances and do go out on dates and try to meet other people. It never works out. I can't find nobody like him because there is no one like him. But it's just like he ain't gonna do right. So it's just like it is what it is, you know. Like it's like I sometimes I just be feeling like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know. Like I don't want to get too off into that situation, but yeah, that's why I was even dealing going out with Corey. So if you're sitting on your side of the screen thinking, oh, how are you going out with him and you have somebody else there? Yeah, because I can. Beard and I have a different type of relationship. So yeah, that's what it is. That's why he sat back down on the couch when he noticed that I knew Corey and I said his name. I tried to diffuse the situation, calm him down, and that's that. So after he gets done punching my car, it was so pitiful because he's punching the car with all of his might and he's not doing anything. The car, the window is not even really breaking for real. He's just punching the car. You're trash, you're trash, you're trash. Punching the car. So I'm like, I'm about to call the police on you because where I live at, baby, the police is coming. I stay in a nice neighborhood. They're gonna be over here before I even hang up the phone, and I'm close to the police station. So I said, you know what? I'm getting ready to call the police on you. So then that's when he decides to run off and run to his car.
Run off.
I'm like, okay, so I run back in the house. And of course, Beer is like, who is that? I have to break it down to him and just come clean about the whole situation and tell him everything. And it was just like a nightmare. Like, and we were both, then we both just bust out laughing because the way he was punching the car was just like, y'all, like, and I'm so mad because I have a doorbell camera on my door, but for some reason it ain't catching. I'm so mad. I went to my Vivid camera a few hours later to check it because I would have posted the video here so y'all could see how stupid he looked. Like, what are you doing? Punching somebody's car that you met 3 weeks ago is insane. Like, it's no way you was just feeling me like that. But he clearly have an anger problem. So that was just a major, major, major red flag. So when he left, even Beard was like, nah, he ain't gonna work. He's like, well, why don't you like him? Because clearly it seemed like he really liked you. I said he was too much too soon. He was. The night we went out to Love and Tequila, he asked me to be his girlfriend. How can you ask me to be your girlfriend? And this is our first date. You don't even know me for real. You need to calm down. You're doing too much. He was too much too soon. So that's why I was kind of like standoffish towards him. You're doing too much. Relax, buddy. Relax. So, and then you try to punch my windows out. Like, what? So, after he punched my windows out, he cussed me out in front of my neighborhood. Like, seriously. So, he leaves or whatever, speeds off, gets in his little truck and speeds off, and probably goes home. Whatever. I come back in the house, me and Beard laugh our asses off about it, and basically proceed to go on with our day anyway. So I don't care. So me and Beard proceed to go out to lunch and go and do some shopping. The whole time we're out at lunch, Corey's texting my phone, oh, you're trash, B, and all this other stuff. Like, how am I trash? I went out on one date with you and you got mad at me because I didn't want to come over to your house yesterday. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what makes me so trash. Like, I don't get it. And I could tell that when he came by my house the first time, he kind of wanted me to invite him in because he's like, oh, well, you were answering the phone last night. Like, maybe he was kind of hoping that I would hang with him Then so he kind of was like hinting. He's like, whose car? He's like, do you have company in the house? I said, no. He goes, well, whose car is that? I said, that's my neighbor's car. My neighbor that stays to the left of me wind up parking their car in front of my house. There's a few people that stay there with cars, so sometimes they'll park in front of my house. Maybe if somebody that lives there has to go to work and they don't want to move their car, they'll just park in front of my house. I don't mind. I just live here with my kids, so and I only have one car, so I don't mind if they park in front of
All right.
my house. I'm parking in my driveway anyway, or in my garage.
I'm gonna go lay
So
down.
he's like, well, whose car is that? I'm like, the first time he came, he asked me whose car is that. I said, that's my neighbor's car. But when he came back the second time, Beard's car was in the driveway. So
These will be available on the website.
In my neighbor's driveway.
Or message me if you want them.
Like, it's just giving major weirdo. So
It will be $6 for shipping.
harassing me, like, what? And Beard's like, no. He's like, I think you need to file a police report on him and fill out a protection order because something is wrong with him. Like, this man is literally unhinged. Like, I just couldn't believe him. So thankfully he didn't damage my windows, but he was a freaking psychopath. Like, why would you punch somebody's windows who you
We'll see you guys later.
3 weeks ago? And so once again, y'all,